Let's talk to Richard now, who is in Stepney. Hello, Richard.
Hello, Cristo. I'm surprised you're speaking to me again.
Why, did we row?
I was on the other night and we spoke to you about Islam and all that, and it got a bit heated and,
Oh, right, yes. I do quite remember that.
It's just rare that people with my kind of knowledge bring a call with that kind of subject. But, I mean, no, I don't hold any, any bad feelings.
No, if I remember rightly, I think I chewed you up and spat you out there, didn't I?
What, you really think so?
I don't know who won that argument. Some people texted
and have a shovel.
Some people texted to say, "Oh my God, Richard absolutely owned you."
In all honesty, Cristo, you didn't fare very well against me. But look, it doesn't matter. I did it. But you can't do very well against me. You don't know enough about. You don't know enough. You don't know the subjects like I do. But
but Richard, in fairness, I had so many people text me afterwards saying that you didn't know the subject yourself either, and that you were about as much of a scholar of Islam as the Archbishop of Canterbury. So,
but see, the thing is, Cristo, if you listen to it again, you can clearly see that you babbled and babbled on about the same nonsense, and I countered you with historical facts, Quranic teachings, everything. But look, let's go on.
Yeah, and I countered you with the teachings of the Bible, which could be interpreted.
You babbled
which could be interpreted as equally as violent as the Quran. And if someone decides to,
Cristo, it's not as violent as the Quran. The Quran's 100 times worse. But I'm
not having this conversation with you again, though, because I could go out and shoot anyone, Richard, and I could say I am doing it on behalf of Jewish people, and then would we?
Cut me off?
No. I'm just going to say this to you. Would you expect then Jewish people to call up and say, "I'm sorry"?
The thing is, Cristo,
but if you keep talking over me, of course I'm going to babble, Richard. So do you want me to say what I want to say, or are you going to talk over me?
No, okay, go on, say what you're going to say.
If I could go out and kill everyone in Trafalgar Square now and say I'm doing it on behalf of Jewish people, and wear the star on my T-shirt. Now, would that mean then that every single Jewish person in the UK would have to ring up a radio station and say I condemn what he's done? No, because I have made the decision to interpret my violent, murderous tendencies with Judaism. That's been my decision to do that. So it would be as absurd for Jewish people to ring up and condemn that as it is for people who are of the Islamic faith who are not interpreting that faith as a violent psychopath to have to ring up and condemn an Islamist insane person that is interpreting their religion into murder. That is why I believe you were talking bunkum.
Babble. I've already explained to you on that radio station that night, on that conversation, right, that what you were saying is completely irrelevant because you're not supported by Scripture. The fact of the matter is that what you're saying is absolutely irrelevant. Right? There are no Christians and Jews forming global terrorists of networks around the globe that have got religious devotees motivated on beheading people and committing mass mutilation to advance the cause of their religion. You're comparing apples to oranges. There are no Christians and Jews committing these kinds of atrocities.
No, Richard, that, if there is, within the Islamic faith, in 2015, more of a propensity for people to take that faith and skew it to their own murderous tendencies, thereby actually, as well, by the way, Richard, also contradicting parts of that text. Because, you might say that you're a good Muslim if you're a violent Muslim, but also there are parts of the Quran that are not violent, which would mean that you are actually going against the Quran. But, let me just make this point. If there is more of a propensity for people to do that from the Islamic faith in 2015, that is a valid question. That is absolutely fair enough to ask.
Okay, now let me tell you why that's absolutely ridiculous, right? The reason why it's absolutely ridiculous is because with the Quran, violence is more deeply ingrained within the schools of Islamic jurisprudence.
Then why aren't there more Muslims in the UK? Why aren't I being attacked by one now because I'm not a Muslim?
Why are there more Muslims more willing to join ISIS than there are the British Army? Why are there...
what's your source of that? That more British Muslims want to join ISIS than they do the British Army?
There are more British Muslims that are willing to join ISIS that are joining ISIS than the British Army.
Okay, what's your source of that?
Okay.
Because I remember last time we spoke, actually, you came up with a statistic that was ridiculous that I had to ask you a source of.
Cristo, the fact of the matter is, I completely tore you apart last time.
Oh, did you? Okay.
You babbled on about nonsense because you are not, every day, you're defending the indefensible. Right? What I'm doing is pointing out reality, the reality on the ground, and all you can do is babble on. There are people being...
Where are the stats then? Tell me the stats of the fact that there are more Muslims wanting to join ISIS from the UK than the army.
There are Christians having their heads slowly cut off with mere kitchen knives, driven from their homes, buried alive into the ground. There has been Muslim persecution against religious minorities for 1,400 years. And all you can do is talk about stupid verses from the Bible that nobody has ever used in a religious atrocity. If I sat there and gave you Quranic verses, you could turn on the TV every day and see Muslims committing these things all the time and using these texts, using the example of the Prophet Muhammad. Yes, you made a point. Christianity is a violent religion. I don't like it. Judaism, there are violent religions. They're all violent if you take them out of context. But with the Quran, the teachings are commanded. It is integral to the religion. Other religions do not teach their followers to go out in today's world and wage violent warfare against non-believers. Islam is extremely unique, and it's the only religion with an established...
See, now, that is where we disagree, because I believe
Hold on. Just let me finish my point. Islam, whether you like it or not, is the only religion with an established doctrine, theocracy, and legal system that mandates warfare against non-believers. And most mosques in this country where jihad is taught, and jihad is the most revered Islamic practice, and the only Islamic practice that guarantees Muslims straight entrance to the most elite quarters of paradise. There are no other religious groups at all going around cutting people's heads off, burying people alive, going around the world demanding respect while giving absolutely none back in return. You have got no argument. No argument.
So you are absolutely telling me then, Richard, that this is not about, in your belief, the fact that there are some murderous, insane, stupid individuals who are taking that text literally, because religious texts are metaphorical, Richard, because I read to you last time we spoke all sorts of violent passages of the Bible, but religious texts are metaphorical. You do not actually have to take them in absolute verbatim.
Exactly.
That's what you're supposed to do.
So agree.
Yeah, exactly.
So
thank you. Now, if you are a stupid, murderous psychopath, you will read one of those texts and you will think, No, let me finish. I'm not going to take that as a metaphor. No, I'm going to read that text and I'm going to take it in a literal fashion in order to fulfill my murderous tendencies.
Listen, see, Cristo, this is the difference, right? You don't understand Islamic theology, right?
It doesn't sound like you do either.
You don't. I understand it, and I've proved I understood it.
Oh, did you? What, by coming up with ridiculous, scurrilous statistics that I'm still waiting to hear about the source of all of these British people joining ISIS? I'm still waiting, Richard.
You're not getting anywhere, because the fact of the matter is...
Sorry, where's your source for that stat, by the way, Richard?
You only have to look. Never mind about the source.
No, sorry, you can't come on the radio, Richard, and quote ridiculous statistics with no source.
How about over 125,000 deadly terrorist attacks since 9/11? Other religions, under a dozen. You can count in your one hand the amount of religious atrocities committed by Jews, Christians, or people of other faiths in one hand in the past decade. Islamic extremism...
No, Richard, and I've already acknowledged to you, Richard, that perhaps there is a perfectly valid question to ask. Is there something that has happened that is radicalising people to take these texts literally within the last few years that is causing that to happen? I think that is a perfectly...
Islamic terrorism has gone on for 1,400 years.
No, see, I just think it's terrorism, Richard.
Let me tell you something before we get on to the main point. Right?
No, this is your point. You're done then, Richard, I'm afraid, but go on.
Right. How many more Islamic attacks and religious violence committed utterly in the name of Islam is it going to take for you to understand? Is it going to take...
I think you've summed it up. It's in the name of Islam, but it's not representing Islam.
Coming from someone who's actually gay as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because Islam wants you dead. Right? Now, I know most Muslims...
people who take Islam literally want me dead. Are you so unable to see that it's about metaphors?
Cristo, listen, do you not understand that you're at your depth here? Why don't we go into the... Because you are completely at your depth. You're not supported by Scripture. I am. Right? You haven't got the knowledge about this subject. I have. Right?
Well, no, clearly you don't, though, because you're ringing up here and trying to tell me that you believe that every...
How do you feel when you speak to someone like me and you turn on your TV?
How do I feel? I feel frustrated that you're so ignorant. That's what I feel.
Having their head slowly cut off with an... Let me tell you something now.
Oh, God, if I hear any more of this hyperbole, I'm likely to vomit. But go on, Richard.
Let me tell you something now. If you understood the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, right, and you understand what Muhammad stood for, Muhammad was a warlord. Muhammad used to go around and he used to evict Jewish tribes, take their women and children as sex slaves, and behead them, right? Jihad is deeply ingrained into the Islamic religion. It is the most perfect example for Muslims to follow. And the violence in the Quran, it supersedes the peaceful passages. Muslims have a religious duty to wage violent warfare against non-believers. And there is not one single school of Islamic jurisprudence, not one, in this country or out the world, that has got a program that teaches against these teachings. Even the moderate Muslims in these mosques, they all share the same.
So you're absolutely saying that even moderate Muslims in mosques are teaching that violence is the way forward. No. I listened very carefully, Richard, and that's what you just said. You said even the moderate Muslims are taking this text and teaching this violence. That's exactly what you just said. That's exactly what you just said.
I didn't say that. And when you
go on. Okay, what did you mean then? Tell me what you meant.
What I told you is all the schools of Islamic jurisprudence. There is not one single mosque that has a program that all the schools of the Islamic schools of jurisprudence agree on one thing. They differ slightly on different areas, but there's one thing they agree on, and that is jihad. And the main point of jihad is to wage violent warfare for the sake.
So even the moderate Muslims believe in jihad.
Right, okay. The moderate Muslims don't necessarily... Human beings generally choose not to kill because it's against our senses not to kill. We choose not to kill because we're human beings. We say to ourselves, right, let's obey the laws that are written in the human heart. But then,
so those people don't take it literally. Those texts.
The moderates are stuck in a terrible state of ambivalence between their friends in the Western world, in their new lives in their adopted country, and their sense of loyalty. And obviously their sense of loyalty to a radical clergy that supports the terror.
So let me ask you this question then. So you are, I mean, it's amazing, Richard, that you're speaking on behalf of moderate Muslims across the UK. I'm sure they'll be thrilled to hear that. But anyway, you are telling me then that moderate Muslims are between a rock and a hard place. Really, they're being taught that jihad is the only way forward, but they know in their hearts that actually going out and killing people is a bit wrong. So therefore, they're sort of caught between a rock and a hard place, between their violent tendencies and their humanity. That's basically what you're saying.
What moderate Muslims do, they know these teachings are going on within their mosque, within their establishments, within their communities. Every time Channel 4 catches them out on a hidden camera, every time we look behind closed doors or we sneak up and we find what these people are teaching, moderate Muslims stand back and do nothing. The only thing they do is exhibit these passions.
I mean, you're being so grossly offensive by saying that, your gross generalisations during this conversation, Richard, you should be absolutely ashamed of. All moderate Muslims apparently just stand back and let this happen, do they? What about all the Muslims that come on and condemn the violence? What about all the Muslims that go on television? What about the Muslim Council of Britain that condemned ISIS and said that they didn't want it called Islamic State anymore? So for you to make gross generalisations, that moderate Muslims, full stop, are allowing this to go on is offensive, and it's not true. Anyway, Richard, I think that's enough. And yes, you won. Well done, you. You did very well. 0345 6060 973 is the number to call. Thank God we're not having this conversation full time this morning, as I think I would be liable to throw myself off a building. Can we go back to dogs, please? Far happier to talk about that.
This is LBC. Cristo on LBC.
4 minutes to 3. I was so late with that break, but oh my God, Richard was infuriating. Oh my God, is he infuriating. Utterly. Thank you, though, for some of your kind responses. A couple of you agreeing with Richard, actually, it has to be said, in fairness. I just hate gross generalisations.